God, what a good fucking movie! Yeah, I saw Captain America Civil War for the second time. Now we're gonna do some spoiler talk. You've already seen the movie, right? No? Well, you're getting it now. And that's a solid spoiler warning for people who have not seen Captain America Civil War. If you do not want spoilers, you should probably turn this off now. Don't bitch about it on my Twitter, don't worry. This video will still be here when you watch the movie, so just come back after you watch it. Unless you don't care about spoilers, in which case, welcome! Let's talk about some spoilers. Let's ruin a movie for you. So you guys already knew I love Captain America Civil War the first time I saw it. Here's a little something for you, it's better the second time. Even from the opening action sequence, this movie starts out, the Avengers are going after Crossbones from Captain America the Winter Soldier. That's what I feel the Russos do so well with these Captain America movies. They make the action gritty and real. You're really on the ground with them. It reminded me of the opening, or at least the chase action sequence in Casino Royale, James Bond with Daniel Craig. Long story short, Crossbones has a dynamite vest. He's gonna blow up Captain America. All of a sudden, boom, it's all contained. And you see Scarlet Witch, and she's there, she's containing it. And she just throws him up into orbit. Or not quite orbit. He was going up, and then he blew up right in front of this building, and a bunch of innocent civilians in there just ate shit and died. Now the government's like, all right, guys, you need to be contained. You need to be controlled. One thing I loved is when Colonel Ross, was he now Secretary Ross? The point is, his mustache is breaking it down to the Avengers like, all right, you guys need to be reined in. He's showing them footage of shit that happens. In the trailer, it was just trailer stock footage. It's like, oh, that's a shot from the Avengers movie, but it's not like a camera shot that someone would have. In this one, it's actually camera or cell phone footage, and I love the part where the Hulk is jumping. It's from the first Avengers, and the Hulk jumps onto a building, and all this debris falls on whoever was recording that. That person probably died. It goes along with the theme of this movie is we're all rooting like, oh yeah, Avengers, yeah, you're kicking ass. But in the end, like even something like the Hulk going through and jumping on buildings, something that got us all jacked up, is like, there are casualties to that. People died because the Hulk was jumping on the building, so we were all rooting for people to die, kind of. Really brings it on course for you. We're like, maybe they should be controlled. Maybe? Which, jumping ahead on this, I saw one of the gripes about this movie. People were like, Hawkeye didn't really give a reason that he's joining the fight. He was just there for the sake of him being there. Although, it's not even said in the movie, but the way I see it, he's the one who told little Maximoff, little Scarlet Witch, to go out there. If you go out there, you are an Avenger. He gave her the pep talk at Age of Ultron. She went out there, and now she's an Avenger, and she's the one who sent Crossbones up there when he blew up, and so she feels responsible for everyone dying in that building. Hawkeye probably feels responsible for those people dying in that building because he's the one who gave her the pep talk that made her an Avenger. That's the way I see it anyway. Maybe I'm just looking for a reason. Who knows? But really, when they're deliberating, Tony Stark's like, we need to be put in check. Shit like this is happening. We are hurting people. Captain America's like, governments are run by people with agendas, and those agendas change. What if there's a place that they send us that we don't want to go? What if there's a place we should go that they don't send us? I feel like Donatello from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, like The Secret of the Ooze. I'm like, he's right. He's right. They're both right. They both brought up very good points. I'm glad it wasn't so black and white, you know, it's like Tony Stark's the dick, Captain America's the good guy. They ultimately ride that line for as long as they can, but in this movie, you really do see both sides. And really sad, tragic news in this movie that I don't really have a segue for, I don't know how to go from talking about that to talking about this, is Agent Carter dies in this movie. It wasn't some big thing. She died in her sleep, and at her funeral, her niece, Agent Hottie, is talking about how she was talking with Agent Carter, and she was like, how did you get ahead in a world that was ultimately male-driven? Agent Carter didn't operate in the most progressive form of the world. Agent Carter told her, compromise where you can and where you will, but where you can't, don't. Because at that point, it's your responsibility to tell the other person, no, you move. And you can tell it really hit Steve Rogers. He was like, that's me in this situation. I can't budge on this. I can't move. And it was such an important scene in this movie because everyone has been in that situation where you're like, I can't budge on this. I really truly believe that I'm right. I can't compromise. And if you haven't been in a situation like that, you will. And when you are, you will love this movie even more. That's what I love about Bucky being in the forefront of this movie. Remember I told you in my spoiler-free review that ultimately this is a sequel to Captain America Winter Soldier. So the Bucky Barnes Captain America thing, that's in the forefront. You look at Bucky Barnes in this movie. Bucky was a tool of Hydra that they used to exercise their will and agenda. Tony Stark's like, oh, bring him in, bring him in, bring him in. He needs to be brought in. He needs to be brought to justice. All the while, Tony Stark is advocating the signing of this piece of paper that would make him and the Avengers a tool of the government to exercise their will and agenda. So ironically, Tony Stark is saying that the Avengers should be like what Bucky was like. It's a very ironic wheel of circular reasoning that you're on when you're watching this movie. It just gave the movie a lot more flavor. And you really feel for Bucky in this movie. Bucky is a victim in all of this. Ultimately, his brain was scrambled and he was brainwashed to do something that he wouldn't have done otherwise. Bucky Barnes and Jessica Jones are the tragic characters among the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Both ultimately had their minds controlled controlled by someone else, in Bucky's case, a collection of other people that just use them as a smoking gun pretty much. They are a weapon for their will. And I love how Marvel's tackling the fact it's like, no, that messes a person up, so shit. I see so many other movies out there, it's like, oh yeah, mind control, and then they snap out of it, they're like, yeah, I'm fine. Not in the Marvel world, man, no, you're messed up for quite a while. And among everything this movie has in it, there are a lot of trails leading to places in this movie. I mean, it's a web, it's a tangled web we weave in Civil War. This movie is also a Black Panther origin movie. This is where we see the beginning of Black Panther, or at least his introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this dude is not messing around. This guy is out to kill Bucky Barnes. He's talking with Black Widow. Black Widow's like, we'll find the person who murdered your father, and he's like, don't worry, I'll kill him myself. He's the king of Wakanda. He's their leader. You imagine if Barack Obama was like, don't worry about it, I will kill him myself. You'd be like, oh shit, he is not messing around. Drone strike. It's like, oh, that's not the same. But at a point in this movie, the greatest superhero throwdown in a movie ever happened. I was so entertained in this throwdown that was at the airport, where it's pretty much lines divided and now everyone's gonna fight. I mean, everyone's fighting everyone. Everyone had a solid moment to shine. At least one moment in this movie. I mean, I was dying laughing at Ant-Man, and Ant-Man's like, I'm gonna try something. I was like, what's he gonna try? Then he turned big and he grabs Rhodey. He's like, oh, I was like, oh shit. That's right, he doesn't just turn small, man. Ant-Man can turn big. Stark's like, all right, does anyone on our team have any really miraculous tricks they now want to throw out? Now's the time. Ant-Man has a little truck. He's like, all right, Cap, throw this at this. All right, go, boom. His big truck's going after Rhodey. He's like, oh, you have got to be kidding me. And it blows up, and Ant-Man's like, I thought that was a water truck. No, that was a gasoline truck. Just about killed Rhodey. I just so completely loved that throwdown, because also it gave us a chance to see Spider-Man in action, how they're making Spider-Man. And dude, I cannot stress enough, Tom Holland is the greatest Spider-Man I've seen on screen yet. Now, I in their own way, love any of the renditions of Spider-Man that we have gotten on the big screen. The Spider-Man iterations that I hold to my heart that made me love Spider-Man was the 90s cartoon, the 90s animation, and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. But Tom Holland, guys and gals, this guy reminded me why I first fell in love with Spider-Man, because he was a teenager. This stuff was blowing his mind. He talked like a teenage kid. Like when Bucky punches at him, he grabs his hand, he's like, you have a metal arm? That is awesome, dude. He's like, hey, Cap, big fan. You can tell that he was a teenager fighting alongside and against all these heroes that he himself has loved. He was fanboying out a bit, and he should be fanboying out, because he is not an Avenger. He's not a big superhero. He's not like, I'm Spider-Man. I'm the best ever. He hasn't been at this long, and so he should act like a teenage kid fighting alongside heroes. And they did that very well. Because Spider-Man, what made him great and what continues to make him great is he was the one that went against the grain of superheroes. You had Batman, you had Superman, you had all these heroes that were men, and children can aspire to be like them. They are men, and you can be them too as long as you eat your green vegetables. So, you know, the nerdy kid would read that and was like, oh, I want to be like that. Spider-Man was the one that came along and was like, hey, no, nerdy kid, you too can be a hero, because that nerdy kid is Spider-Man. Totally went against the grain. It was great back then. It's great now. And it's celebrated in this movie. I hope it continues to be celebrated as Tom Holland continues to be Spider-Man. I believe it will be. I will say that Scarlet Witch, she is OP as fuck. Seriously, how many times in that throwdown, a huge superhero battle, did she save someone's ass? She like blocks someone's foot and throws them, or blocks someone else, and like, I mean, these kill shots she is avoiding because she's moving people with her mind. But let's be honest, man, her big moment was when she goes up against Vision and she's doing her like abracadabra shit, and Vision's like, she shuts down the crystal in his head and he's like, don't do this, and she just like Hadokens him through about 38 floors of building. I was like, okay, yeah, that's the badass I always heard about. Yeah, it was great in Age of Ultron seeing her rip Ultron drones in half, but this was just a bit more impressive. Definitely kicked ass in this movie. She's one of my favorite characters in this movie. But then tragedy strikes the team when Rhodey, like Vision, is cradling Maximoff because, you know, he wants to hit that. Then he shoots his gem at Falcon, and then Falcon dodges it and it smacks Rhodey in the chest. This dude free falls. Like a War Machine just free falls and splats on the ground. He's paralyzed now. That sucks because I like Rhodey, but I do like the fact that ultimately I feel like they're gonna be like, all right, Rhodey's gonna be in a wheelchair, but the War Machine suit's gonna make him walk. So he's pretty much gonna be like that Mantis series. Hey, you guys remember that? No? Well, I do, so there. But the big holy shit moment in this entire thing of everything that I've explained and talked about was the scene where Captain America and Bucky are in Fortress of Evil looking for the other Winter Soldiers that are ultimately irrelevant and useless. And they're there, and then Tony Stark comes as Iron Man. He's like, hey, don't worry, I'm on your side. And then Daniel Bruhl's character, all right, I'm gonna say this here. In my first review, I was like, ultimately, I feel like he was kind of useless and he didn't really contribute much to the plot. I still feel like that overall, but I really did appreciate the tragedy of his character a lot more the second time I saw it. Like I said, a lot happens in this movie, and sometimes you just gotta watch a movie twice in order to really gather everything. Sometimes 3 times, sometimes 4 times. But when he kept like listening on the phone, and at first you're like, oh, his wife's calling him, and then you're like, oh no, she's dead, and that's just a message that he keeps listening to. You're like, oh, that sucks ass. So I did appreciate him a lot more the second time I saw the movie, and I really like the actor, so there that is. But it really comes to a head right when he turns on this computer screen and you see the street corner, and you're like, oh, I think that's the wreck at the beginning. And then Tony Stark's like, I know this street. What is this? You're like, oh fuck, oh god, no, oh god, ugh, ugh, ugh. No, not this. Yep, Bucky Barnes killed his parents. Captain America knew about it, kept it from Tony Stark. Tony's pissed. He is going after Bucky with a vengeance. He wants blood. And I completely, at this point, I was like, I get it. But I also get Captain America trying to save his friend. It's like this, guys. Tony Stark he never really reconciled with his dad. He had regrets about it. I mean, this is established through all the movies. He was never close to his father, but you can tell after his death, he wanted to reconcile, but never got that chance. And up till now, he wrote it off as happen chance. He's like, well, they died and shit happens, but I move on. You know, he repressed it. He repressed his emotions. He says in this movie, he's like, yeah, I repressed it and I didn't want to deal with it. He deflects. It's buried deep down inside, but you know, shit happens. But now, Bucky Barnes killed his parents. All that rage now comes to a head, and now he has someone to blame. He's like, no, you're the one who did it. You're the reason I never got to reconcile. You are the reason for any misery that I've carried for all these years. I'm going to kill him. Yeah, you have those issues, and then you watch a video, someone smashing your dad's face in and choking your mom, and you say, go ahead and try to say, like, yeah, I would have let him live. No, you'd probably try to kill the dude too. However, on Captain America's side, he's like, he was a victim. He didn't do it. He was made to murder your parents. He remembers, and he carries that guilt with him. Do not blame Bucky for what Hydra did. Hydra killed your parents. That's their fault. Then you look at Steve Rogers, and you think to yourself, all right, think of your best friend. Best or whoever you're closest to. Then imagine a super evil organization captured him, brainwashed him, made him murder people. He still carries the scars of it. He remembers all of it. It's traumatized him. It's super tragic. And then imagine somebody trying to kill your friend. You would defend him. Again, Donatello and Turtles too. He's right. He's right. They're both right. Then at the end of the very emotional throwdown, Bucky has his metal arm blasted off, and then Steve Rogers takes his shield and just jams it into Tony Stark's little arc reactor, and he has no more power for his suit. He's taking Bucky, and he has a shield, and Stark's like, that shield doesn't belong to you. You don't deserve it. My father made that shield. And you're like, oh gosh, that's a really good point. And you even see Captain America's like, all right. He just drops the shield. He's like, I can't say he's wrong about that. The post-credit scene was great. There are 2 post-credits, one mid-credit scene and then a post-credit scene. Mid-credit scene was Bucky goes back under the ice because he's like, I can't trust my own brain. I mean, obviously there are a sequence of words that were used in this movie that made me snap, and you know, folks got messed up. So he goes back under the ice, and you know he's gonna come back for Infinity War, hopefully. Then the second one was Spider-Man. You know, Peter Parker's in his room, he's got a black eye, and super hot Aunt May is, you know, patching his eye up, and then she leaves, and his web slinger has a projection that comes out of it. It looks up, and it's the Spider-Man symbol, like, you know, the flashlight you had when you were a kid? Yeah, that's shining on the ceiling. Then it says Spider-Man will return, which I found interesting, because we knew Spider-Man was going to be in his own movies by Sony, but it's like, wait, do you mean like he's returning in his own set of movies? Or do you mean he's going to return in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Those are 2 completely different things, and I want to know. I mean, I suppose now that the integration has happened between Sony Spider-Man and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, by implication, you would think Spider-Man would come back when there's a super evil, destructive demigod about to wreck your world's shit. Yeah, I imagine Spider-Man would come back now that he is a part of that world. One thing I thought of, though, the Infinity Stones, if he gets all of them, Vision is gonna die. He's gonna rip that thing out of his head. Vision's toast. It's just, I didn't think about that. That sucks. Now, which team am I on? I am on a team. If I had to choose a team, I had a gun to my head, I can choose one. I got my team. It's really funny. At the end of my spoiler-free review, instead of punching the camera, I had the Iron Man glove. And people were like, oh, that's clearly what team he's on. It's funny, isn't it? That moment you realize you don't know shit. Team Cap Merrick. That's so okay, it's like this. I was looking for a full-size, adult shield that I could be like really impressive. Like, couldn't find one for the price I wanted for 1 second in a video and the thumbnail, and couldn't find one that was shipped to my house fast enough because it was kind of an afterthought and I just thought of it recently. So I got this thing. It's a magnet though. It's pretty neat. Pretty strong magnet. Yeah, you saw it on the thumbnail? No. I just took a picture of it like that, and then I posed like that, superimposed them, made it bigger, boom. That's thumbnail magic right there, my friends. That's YouTube magic. But yeah, Team Cap all the way. The reason is because, especially at the end, Tony Stark is coming from a very emotional place, but Captain America is still logical. He's like, no, we're not the enemy. Something else is the enemy. So for Cap's logic versus Tony Stark's emotional state, I choose Cap. And then in the initial arguments, I saw both sides of it, but I more lean towards Cap, where he's like, we are going to be a tool at that point. What if they want to send us to a place we don't want to go and fight for something? What if, like, Hydra, they need to help Hydra somehow? The government says, well, that's just the better of the alternatives. It's like, that's fucking Hydra. But they could do that. Like, no, you have to help Hydra because we are working for another thing. So now the Avengers might help Hydra. It's just, that scenario's out there. Possible. Or what if there's another scenario where it's like, oh shit, this guy is holding a building hostage, and the building happens to be a school. He's gonna blow up all the kids in the school, but it's like this super like, oh no, the government can't intervene because politics. Both of those scenarios suck ass, so I'm with Cap. It's like, leave it as it is. We have pretty good discretion. Accidents happen, but good discretion generally. Guys, in the end, this movie just hits so many great notes, and it's very rare to find a movie that gets better the second time you watch it. I imagine what it'll be like the third time I watch it. It's a rarity, especially in the comic book movie world. All right, guys, so again, I ask you, Captain America Civil War, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's your favorite part of the movie? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more. There's no epic. Vision is cradling Maximoff because, he wants to hit that. About the time where Scarlet Witch asked Vision, like, well, what do you want? And then Vision says something along the lines of, for people to see you the way I see you. I was like, all right, Viz, I don't know if you can read human emotions that well because you're pretty much Spock bot. I'm gonna let you know right now, you are in, my friend. You are in. Just keep doing you and you can do each other because it's happening.